Hey folks, I'm Caleb Foshi with the Dust Bowl Catholic, and this is my Catholic Dollar. All right, so this week the rubber hits the road. We're going to lay out a map on how we can pay off debt and get our financial house in order. And I'm going to throw a lot at you this week, but I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible because in the coming weeks, we're going to take each section and break it down in detail. Okay, so we're going to use St. Teresa of Avila's interior castle as kind of a guide map on our way through this. First, who was St. Teresa of Avila? Let's take a look. So she lived from 1515 to 1582, and she was a Spanish mystic, and she was a huge reformer of the Carmelite order along with St. John of the Cross. And her reforms eventually spawned a whole new subset called the Discalced Carmelites. She wrote her most well-known work, The Interior Castle, in 1577, and after dying in 1582, she was canonized in 1622, only 40 years after her death. Then in 1970, Pope St. Paul VI declared her a doctor of the Church. So we're not just picking up anybody to use as our guide. We're getting a doctor of the Church, well-known mystic saint, and she happens to be the patron saint of my home parish in Hera. So what is the interior castle? Let's look at that too. So St. Teresa describes within all of us an interior castle, and inside those walls that you see around the castle, there are 7 mansions. And as you progress along your spiritual journey, you progress into bigger and more grand mansions as you go. So we're going to parallel St. Teresa's idea of progressing through these mansions as a way for us to progress through our financial journey and get there. So, of course, the place to start is the first mansion. So let's look at that. So St. Teresa says that, to enter the first mansion, it's assumed that you're there simply through prayer. And while you're there, you're going to expand your self-knowledge and humility. And that humility is a huge thing because you have to have the ability to look at your weak points, not just your strong points. Over on the My Catholic Dollar side, again, prayer equals success. That's how you started this. In the previous weeks, every week on our homework, we've had prayer. Again, you're humbling yourself. To raise your hand and say, I have a problem, and you are communicating, much like in the interior castle, you communicate with God, you are also communicating with your spouse to stay on the same page. And together in this first phase, we're going to create a budget. All right, so let's talk about that budget. Like I said, in the future, we're going to have more detail. But if you want to break it down to its simplest point, you either get an Excel sheet if you're a nerd like me, or you just get a piece of paper and you write down, here's how much I make on this paycheck, and here are all the bills I have to pay between now and then, and here's my housing and my clothing and my food and all that. And you start subtracting those amounts as you go down. You make a map until every penny up here that your paycheck had is used up, and you stick to that budget and figure out where you're going wrong, where your money's going. Let's look at the second mansion. So the second mansion is a little bit bigger. You're going to grow through prayer, but you're going to start surrounding yourself with good people and reading good things and listening to good sermons. And your goal is to purge imperfections. Okay? On the My Catholic Dollar side, You're maintaining your prayer and your communication, and you're using that budget you made to purge your bad habits. You know, budgets may need to be tweaked from month to month as you realize where your money's going. You know, if you're spending $15 a week on coffee, maybe you need to look at that. You know, but while we're in this second phase, you're going to grow a $1,000 emergency fund. So the $1,000 emergency fund, this is kind of your safety blanket as we start out, you know, or like a baby's security blanket that they carry around. This is so that if something bad pops up, you have that money at your disposal to go take care of it. You know, a flat tire, one of your kids has a broken arm, something like that, so that you don't have to go into more debt while you're getting out of debt. Now, again, we'll break this down more as we go along, but to get that $1,000, you're going to sell everything you haven't touched in a year. Okay? It's simple as that. Sell everything that you can. Have a yard sale, use Craigslist, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, whatever. And just your goal is just to get that $1,000 in the bank. And what you want to do is put it in a savings account so you can't easily touch it. Don't put it in your checking account because it will get spent. I've done it before. Let's look at mansion 3. So in the third mansion, you've overcome your initial difficulties and you're starting to avoid even venial sins. And you become a good steward of your life and possessions so that you can increase God's influence in your life. On the My Catholic Dollar side, we've overcome our pride and our sloth, some of our initial difficulties. You know, we were lazy, we were prideful, we didn't want to listen to other people, but we've overcome that. And now we're going to be a good steward by eliminating debt using the snowball technique. Now, if you've ever listened to Dave Ramsey, this is exactly what he talks about, the snowball technique. You list all your debts from smallest to largest and the minimum payments there are, and then on the smallest one, you're going to take every penny that you have left over every month and throw it at that smallest one until it's gone. And then once the smallest one's gone, you take that minimum payment plus your extra money that you had and you throw it on number 2. And then the ball just keeps getting bigger because those minimum payments get added as you move down, okay? This is the hardest part, okay? This is where patience comes in. Don't lose your focus. Get it done. And by the way, the house doesn't belong on there, okay? It's everything else. Let's look at mansion 4. Fourth mansion is a significant spiritual move because you're progressing from active to passive as God takes more control of your life. As you decrease, God increases, and He takes over. On the My Catholic Dollar side, it's also a significant financial move because now you are debt-free except for the house. So now you're going from an active to a passive role. Instead of actively paying things off, you are now passively piling up security and investments and things like that as we move forward. So you're going to expand your security by growing that $1,000 to 3 months of expenses. So again, now that we've paid everything off but the house, you've got a decent chunk of money left over every month. So we're going to go and if you have anything else left to sell, here's a good time to jump in there and do that too. You know, we're going to grow that $1,000 to 3 months of expenses, not income, expenses. So we're talking rent or mortgage, food, utilities, and basic insurance and things like that, okay? 3 months, because this becomes our bigger safety net in the event that something terrible happens and we can't work for 3 months, or we lose our job and it takes us that long to get there. Now, if you do lose your job, go back a few weeks and remember, it's okay to take a lower paying job just to make sure that you have your dignity and you're putting food on the table. That can extend your 3 months of expenses to even more than that. If you get, 1, 2, or 3 low paying part-time jobs, okay? Let's look at number 5. In the fifth mansion, again, God is increasing as we decrease, and it opens our eyes to the new riches and delights to be found around us. You know, things like the sun coming up can be a huge thing because we know we made it to another day, and God has blessed us with that. On the My Catholic Dollar side, we're now safe and secure. We've paid off all our debts but the house. We have 3 months of expenses in the bank. And so now it's time to make sure that our retirement can be rich and delightful, just like our life with God as it goes forward. So we're going to save 10% for retirement. And that's 10 gross percent on your retirement. Okay, throw it in. If you have a company 401k, throw it in there. If you have an IRA, throw it in there. You know, I always will tell you to throw as much in your 401k to get the match that your company offers, because most companies do offer a match, whether it be 50 cents on the dollar or dollar for dollar up to a certain amount, and then throw the rest into an individual IRA, unless you're very happy with the investment choices that you have with your 401k. Now, this is critical. There are no loans for retirement. You must do your retirement savings, 10%, okay? Let's go to mansion number 6. This is the final mansion before full union with God. And this is where St. Teresa really puts out a warning that afflictions and dangers abound here. Because as most of you have heard, as you get closer to God and the more holy you get, the more targeted you are by the devil and evil things. So if we switch over to My Catholic Dollar, again, don't get complacent. We are almost there. This is when we're going to kick in for college expenses and mortgage, because those can really derail your future. College expenses, you've got to start working on that. Start saving as early as possible, or help your kids as you go along. Now remember, retirement comes before college, okay? I'm never going to tell somebody to get a loan for college, but worst case scenario, there are loans for college. There are no loans for retirement, okay? Plus, you don't want to be a burden on your kids when they get older. So remember, do the best you can, but your retirement comes first, okay? After your kids are gone and the college thing is out of the way, it's time to pay off your mortgage, okay? You're going to throw every penny you have after your retirement, your 10% retirement, and throw it at that mortgage and get it paid off early. Because then, once that's paid off, your retirement needs reduce drastically. Okay, think about it. You know, your mortgage payment, whether it be $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, just think if you didn't have to pay that anymore, and how much you could save or how much you could help. Let's go to Mansion 7. Mansion 7, spiritual union with God is complete. You're filled to the very center of your soul, and you can appreciate the splendor, beauty, and majesty that God provides. On the My Catholic Dollar side, you have made it. It's now time to expand your investing so that you can give. Charity covers a multitude of sins. So, as I alluded to just a little while ago, when the house is paid off, think of all the things you can do, okay? You've got retirement taken care of. You've got your debt paid off. You got your house paid off. Your college is taken care of for the kids. Maybe it's time to open up an account to start saving for your grandkids' college. Or maybe it's time to, do some major sponsorship work at your church, or to help out that relative or that neighbor who's fallen on hard times. Think of the things you can do when you're no longer throwing your money to the banks. Here's a quote from St. Teresa that is huge in all of this. Let nothing perturb you, nothing frighten you. All things pass. God does not change. Patience achieves everything. Patience, that is the key. You're not going to be able to do this in 30 days. This is a year, 2 year, sometimes 3 year, depending on how much debt you have, experience to get through just the first 3 houses, the first 3 mansions, and to get into that big saving mode, to go from active to passive. stay patient, stay the course, stay focused. Let's look at our homework. So we're sticking with prayer and the saints. As always, this week, I want you to look up St. Teresa of Avila. She can help us as we go along the way. 2, we're going to communicate still. You and your spouse have to be on the same page. It is so important that you go at this together, because if you start working against each other, you won't get anywhere. 3rd, I'm going to ask you to read. You can look up and get a copy of St. Teresa of Avila's Interior Castle. This picture is of an exact one that you can get on Amazon for $5. I'll put a link down in the description if you'd like to look at it. I'm Caleb Foshi with the Dust Bowl Catholics My Catholic Dollar. Remember to subscribe, like, share, and put a comment below. Let me know what you think and if you think you should go a different way. We'll see you next week, and until that time, be not afraid.